The night air in the Blackwood Forest Preserve was crisp and clean, smelling of pine and damp earth. For Leo, Maya, Chloe, and Ben, it was the perfect retreat from the city. The campfire crackled cheerfully, casting dancing shadows on their smiling faces as they shared stories and marshmallows. They had been friends for years, and this annual camping trip was a sacred ritual. It was on the second day that they found it. Wandering farther than usual, searching for a waterfall an old map had promised, they stumbled into a clearing that wasn't on any map. In its center, under a canopy of ancient gnarled trees, stood a circle of dark monolithic stones. They weren't tall, most only waist-high, but they hummed with a palpable energy, an antiquity that made the air feel heavy. "Whoa," Ben, the group's pragmatist, said, running a hand over the moss-caked surface of one stone. "This must be thousands of years old." Chloe, always the most attuned to her surroundings, hugged her arms to her chest. "Do you guys feel that? It's like a hum, a low hum." Leo, the unofficial leader, pulled out his phone, but there was no signal. "Let's get a few pictures and head back. It's getting late." They heard what Chloe meant, a subtle, almost subsonic hum, like the purring of some colossal cat. It seemed to emanate from the stones themselves, a vibration that burrowed under your skin. They wrote it off as the wind, or perhaps an ear buzz from the altitude change, but the sound didn't stop. It followed them back to the campsite, a silent accompaniment to the crackling fire that night. By the next morning, the hum was slightly more noticeable, a constant, low note beneath the chirping of birds. A sense of unease settled over them. They decided to pack up and leave early. The trail they had followed in the day before, a clearly marked path, was gone. In its place was an impenetrable wall of thorns and underbrush. "This is impossible," said Maya, the skeptic, consulting her map and compass. "It was right here. The compass must be off." But the compass was spinning wildly, the needle dancing as if possessed. They tried to retrace their steps, but the forest felt different. Trees seemed to have shifted, landmarks had vanished. Every path they tried, every direction they chose, eventually looped them back to that same clearing with the stone circle. With each return, the hum seemed a little louder, the vibration more intense. Panic began to set in. That's when Chloe stopped dead, her eyes wide with terror. "What is it?" Leo asked, his voice strained. "In the hum," she whispered. "I heard something. It sounded like a voice, someone screaming from very far away." Ben shook his head. "It's stress, Chloe. Our minds are playing tricks on us." But as the hours bled into a desperate day, they started to hear it too. Indistinct phrases, muffled cries woven into the drone. It was maddening. They walked in circles, exhausting eating at their bodies and hope fraying at the edges. At one point, Ben found a dented metal water bottle on the ground, identical to one he'd lost hours ago, yet it was covered in rust, as if it had been lying there for years. The forest wasn't just a maze, it was a predator. It rearranged itself, toyed with them, herded them back to its humming center. And the hum continued to grow, now an audible rumble that vibrated in their bones. The faint screams were clearer now, filled with an agony that mirrored their own mounting fear. It was as night fell on their second lost day that the truth revealed itself. Huddled in the center of the stone circle, the only place that felt vaguely safe, Chloe began to sob. "I can't take that sound anymore. The screaming, it sounds like Maya." Maya, sitting right beside her, froze. "Chloe, that's not funny. I'm right here." But then Leo heard it too, a sharp, piercing scream of pure terror, unmistakably Maya's, echoing in the hum. Yet Maya was sitting before him, lips sealed, her face a pale mask of fear. The scream he heard came from everywhere and nowhere at once. The terror morphed into an icy realization. They looked at each other, the same horrifying truth dawning in their eyes. Ben stumbled backward, his face a mask of disbelief. "No, it can't be." The hum was not an external force. It wasn't the sound of the stones or the earth. It was an echo. It was a recording. It was the cacophony of our own voices, our own screams, from every time they had walked this path before, and all the times they will walk it again. They were trapped in a loop, a repeating reel of horror. Every cry of frustration, every sob of despair, every shriek of terror was added to the soundtrack of their prison. The forest wasn't just trapping them, it was feeding on their despair, amplifying it and playing it back to them on an eternal loop. They remembered Ben's water bottle. It belonged to a previous Ben, a previous iteration that didn't make it. How many times had they died here already? The hum was now a roar. Within it, they could distinguish their own voices with terrible clarity. A scream from Leo from a breakout attempt tomorrow, a sob from Chloe from 3 cycles ago, a yell from Ben that hadn't happened yet, but would. The sound was ourselves, past, present, and future, screaming in unison. There was no fighting this. How can you escape the echo of your own suffering? They were the ghosts and the victims, the haunter and the haunted. The last spark of hope was extinguished. They didn't try to run anymore. They just sat in the stone circle, hugging their knees as the symphony of their own torment washed over them. The air grew colder, the trees seemed to press closer, and the hum grew louder, waiting patiently to record the next set of screams into its timeless composition of despair. This story was a presentation from Shadow Tales.